What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talk with Sports with Jake. Hope you're doing well. So, NFL Draft Round 1 was last night. Let's get into it. We're going to recap, go through every pick, give my grade, and then that's all we're going to cover for today. Let's get started. Tennessee Titans, first overall pick. They take Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami. Kind of knew this was going to be a pick for probably a solid month. I don't love it. But however, I knew this was going to happen. I get why they did it. He was my QB2 in this class. This is a weak class. I didn't have a first round grade on any of these guys. I don't think he's going to translate super well. He's got a very talented arm, but he's a bit erratic with the ball. His decision making is very questionable. He likes to play hero ball way too much. The mistakes really cost him in the college game this past season at the University of Miami. Also, I don't see him really as a leader of men. Remember, this is a guy that he kind of bounced around a couple different colleges. He started, I think, at Incarnate Word. Then he finishes up Miami. That last game of the season, he only played the first half in that bowl game. I get a lot of guys don't play at all when it's not like a playoff bowl game. But if you're gonna play, at least play the full game. Don't only play the first half. That kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So I don't love the prospect. I think in the right situation, I think some of these things can be fixed. And he possibly could turn into a pretty good quarterback. I mean, like a Jalen Hurts type. However, goes to Tennessee. They picked up Tyler Lockett the other day. He's at the end of his career. I don't know what he's going to bring. Calvary's pretty good. They had a pretty good running game with Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears. But that line's a big work in progress. They added a couple pieces in the offense, so I expect it to be better, especially with Bill Callahan coaching the offensive line. And you have an offensive minded guy in Brian Callahan. I didn't love that hire. I mean, at the time, I thought maybe it would be okay, just because he's an offensive mind. But didn't like what I saw in year one. The roster also was not very good. And also, you could not run it back with Will Levis. They do not have another veteran there. That's another concern I have. I don't think Ward should start week 1, and he's going to. I don't know how you could throw Will Levis out there week 1. I don't really know. Well, he shouldn't even be on the roster, to be honest. That would be a weird dynamic if they're both on the roster. I'm not surprised he hasn't been moved already. I think it's possible he's moved today or tomorrow. Of course, rounds 2 and 3 are tonight, and tomorrow afternoon is rounds 4 through 7. But if I'd be surprised if he's on the roster in a month. Will Levis, I'd kind of be shocked. But Cam Ward's the first pick to the Titans. Second overall pick, we had a big trade. The Jaguars move up from 5 to get the second pick from Cleveland. Jacksonville gets the second pick. They also get 104 in the 4th round and pick 200 in the 6th round. Cleveland moves down to 5. They also get 36 in the 2nd round. They get 126 in the 4th round, and they get Jacksonville's first round pick next year, 2026. And the Jaguars move up and take Travis Hunter. This gets an A- for me. I think Hunter is a great player. I really do. I think he's an excellent talent. I think he's a smidge overhyped. The both way thing looks. We've never seen a guy play both ways full time in the NFL. We've never seen it. I don't think it's possible, okay? I get you did it in college. Now you're going against grown men. Charles Woodson did the same thing in college. He was a Heisman winner, one of the better prospects the league's ever seen. He's in the damn Hall of Fame. He did not play both ways in the NFL. He never really played receiver in the NFL. He's a Hall of Fame defensive back, one of the all-time greats, but he didn't do both ways. That's the closest we've gotten. So he's a very polarizing prospect because of that. I think he's really, really good. I think he's an excellent receiver. I think he will make a pretty good corner, but he can't do both ways full time. I heard Jacksonville's going to have him focus on being a receiver first, and will work him in to being a corner. Or have a package of plays for him, which I do think is actually the right move. I think that's the exact position that he should be at. I think it's the right thing to do. I think that's the correct plan for him. He's a great player. Jacksonville, I mean, they're not such a big organization. They've, obviously they go through coaches and GMs. Like I go through Sox. You have a new regime with Liam Cohen and James Gladson's their GM. I don't have much confidence in either guy. Sort of don't have much confidence in the Khan family. I mean, you see how Shad's son runs his wrestling promotion, and he doesn't do odds out for his football team either. But he's a really good player. He was probably the second best player in this class besides Abdul Carter. We'll get to very shortly. But well, so you trade your first next year. I would have a team that is just so far away from contention to me. Like Lawrence has not been the guy we thought, though they haven't done a great job around him. There's not a whole lot around him right now. I would have either stuck at 5. You take a Mason Graham or an Ashton Genty or if Will Campbell were to fall there or somebody, and you just build one piece at a time. Get Trevor Lawrence as much help as you can. Yeah, you have a new regime in the year. I was going to give him a couple of years to try and do something with this football team. Or you move back, get some extra picks, still got a good player, and get some extra picks. Maybe you get an extra second-round pick, whether you use it to take 2 other good players from the second. Maybe you move back in to get another good player late in the first round that falls to you. But I would not have done the trade. I think they gave up a little too much. You gave up, your second, your fourth, and your first next year. I think that's a little bit much to give up. I mean, they did get a great player. Your receiver room is now Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr. That's really, really good. I don't know what they're going to do at, running back and tight end. I mean, Travis Etienne was in training rooms all off-season. You have Tank Bigsby there. Your tight end is now Brenton Strange with Evan Engram now in Denver. Trevor Lawrence coming off an injury. New head coach, and obviously new staff, so I don't know. But this would have been at least an A if they didn't give up so much to move up for Hunter, but he is a great player, second best player in the class, taking him at 2. 3 New York Giants, take Abdul Carter, edge rusher out of Penn State. This also gets an A-. Look, Carter's the best player in the class. That's been pretty certain for a while. He's a freak of nature off the edge. Penn State have a lot of great edge rushers coming out of Penn State. Obviously, Micah Parsons is the most notable one, at least recently. I think he's a great player. This wasn't really a need for the Giants. I'm happy they didn't take quarterback here. I thought it was going to be Shedeur Sanders, which would have been a disaster. So I'm happy they didn't take quarterback, but you had other needs. They really should have moved back from here, I thought. Get some extra picks, and then move back into the first round. Or you get an amazing player, a D-line of him, Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence came out there that was very scary. I don't think that a couple pieces on those D-line are as scary as people say they are. I think Brian Burns is a little bit overrated. I think giving him $30 million a year last year was kind of a mistake. He's very good. He can get you 8 or 9 sacks, but he's not like in like that Micah Parsons or T.J. Watt tier. And Thibodeau, he's had one great year. His rookie year, he wasn't great. He had some character concerns. His second year was very good. Last year, he wasn't great. So I know they pick up a 5th-year option. He's really talented, but he really hasn't produced for a guy who was, the 5th pick in the draft a couple of years ago. The production really hasn't been there. I mean, Lawrence, nothing to say about him. That guy is an absolute monster, arguably the best at his position. And I think Carter is a beast as well. So that is a ferocious defensive line for the New York Giants. However, it doesn't fix so many of the other issues on my team, most of them on the offensive side of the ball. But it's not a bad pick. I mean, he is an incredible talent, the best player in this draft. So he goes to the Giants. 4th overall has been New England Patriots. They take Will Campbell off the tackle out of LSU. This gets an A for me. He's the best lineman in this class by far. Some concerns about him I don't really agree with. I didn't really get them. They said something about his arms. I get he's a tackle. You need long arms is obviously a plus. But Rashawn Slater's arms are just as long as his. They measured about the same. Slater's an all-pro for the Chargers. Has been since he entered the league. To me, they're basically the same player. Whenever I've seen an offensive lineman in the draft, he's got like a button down. He has kind of like a mediocre haircut, not a lot of aura. He's kind of slowly stands up, hugs his family, and the slow walk out to the commissioner, gives him a little hug, nothing fancy, puts on his hat, cuts a little promo in the interview, and that's it. I know, all pro offensive lineman for the next decade. That's kind of how the way I feel like it always works out. That's what I got from Campbell. He said he's gonna die to protect Drake May. I'm sure Mike Vrabel is salivating over Will Campbell. They definitely need a left tackle. Valerian Lowe is god awful. You put him and Morgan Moses at the tackle spots. You have Michael Wenner. He can move to guard full time. If Cole Schrader could be healthy at the center spot, all of a sudden that really bad line you had last year actually looks pretty solid. So this is a very good pick for the New England Patriots. The 5th overall pick, Brown to move back. They get Mason Graham. I get you moved out off you moved down so you don't get Travis Hunter, who was probably the better prospect. However, I like this a lot more than some other people. Wasn't a huge need D tackle, but Graham's a great player. I did think he was a top 5 player in this class. He's really freaking good. You put him next to Myles Garrett, that's really scary. Remember, you picked up an extra second rounder, an extra fourth rounder, and you have Jacksonville's first. Cleveland is probably going to suck this year. They're going to probably have a top 5 pick. But Jacksonville is going to be, I don't think, going to be a whole lot better. So you could have 2 top 10, not top 5 picks next year. That's huge when it comes to team building. It may not matter because they're the freaking Browns. And Andrew Barry's made a lot of questionable decisions as the GM, and their ownership is just so bad I can't even fathom how bad it is. But to move back, get an extra first next year, and an extra 2 in this draft, and still get Mason Graham, I do think that's a good pick. So I will give it a B+. Again, Hunter was the better prospect, which you moving down weren't able to get him, of course. But to move back and get a couple extra really good picks and still get Mason Graham, I don't think is a bad job out of Cleveland Browns. So I actually like that for them. I'm gonna give this a B+. 6th overall pick, Las Vegas Raiders. I get Ashton Jeanty, running back out of Boise State. I love this a lot. This gets an A for me. Jeanty, obviously the best back in the class. He's a special talent. And a lot of people don't like taking running backs high. I'm not huge on you can't take certain positions at certain spots. But I get with the running backs, they obviously careers are going to be very short. But obviously you don't want to do what the Jaguars did with Leonard Fournette. You want to do that. Even the Chargers with Melvin Gordon, that didn't long term that didn't work out phenomenally. But Bijan Robinson was the 8th pick 2 years ago. McCaffrey was a top 10 pick. Saquon was the 2nd pick in the draft. Didn't work out for the Giants because their front office were a bunch of bozos. But the player, when he's been healthy, has been as good as it gets in this league. So, and also the Raiders desperately need another playmaker, and they get one of Ashton Jeanty. Pete Carroll, obviously in Seattle, love to run the ball. Get Marshall Lynch all those years. Jeanty's kind of a similar-ish back. So this is a really good fit. They need another playmaker. He was one of the best players in the class. Jeanty to the Las Vegas Raiders as a 6th pick. 7th overall, New York Jets take Arbon Membu, tackle out of Missouri. This gets a B for me. I really was hoping the Jets would take Tyler Warren. You see my Jets hat? I made the lights green today for the New York Jets. I was hoping they would take Tyler Warren. Fields really needs a good tight end. And they just have not had an elite tight end in so long, and he's going to be elite Tyler Warren. However, they did have a need at the right tackle spot. That was the one spot on the offensive line that really has not been filled yet. They've done some work over the last couple of off seasons to really invest in the offensive line. Obviously, you trade up to get Vera Tucker in the first round recently. You took Fashanu last year in the first round. You spent money in free agency to bring in John Simpson. Joe Tittman's a guy you spent the draft pick on, and now you draft Membu. So they're trying to rebuild this line piece by piece. Obviously, the new head coach is Aaron Glenn, a defensive guy from the Lions. The offensive coordinator also came from the Detroit Lions. Your D coordinator is Steve Wilkes. You did not really add another top-tier receiver next to Garrett Wilson like I was honestly kind of hoping that they would. Fields is a guy who runs a lot. He's not a great passer. They have a talented defense. It's clear they're trying to establish a culture which they have not had in God knows how long. So overall, this is a solid pick. I like Membi, who's the 2nd best tackle in this class. He's a great athlete. I think he is very good. And now all of a sudden, the Jets offensive line looks pretty good. They're very young, but if they stay healthy, this could be a really good line. So I think overall, Membu is a very solid pick for the New York Jets. 8th overall was the Carolina Panthers. They get Ted McMillan. I like this a little bit more than most people, but I thought the pick here was Jalen Walker. Their defense was so bad last year. They added a couple of pieces in the offseason. You had Trayvon Morbing in the secondary. You did add a couple of pieces, but you're going to get back Shaq Thompson and Derek Brown up front in their front 7, which will help. You didn't have those guys for most of last year. I do like Tet. He doesn't create a ton of separation, but he's a big body receiver who can go up and get it. I think that was a major need for them. Outside of that, I'm feeling your receiving core is Xavier Legette, who was awful as a rookie, and Jim Coker, who's flashed, but nothing really special there. So I don't hate this pick as much as other people do, but it gets a B-. It just wasn't that's not the pick I would have made. I would have probably went with Jalen Walker. That filled more of a need for them. However, I do think this was probably like their second most need besides pass rush. Was a big receiver, 4%, which they get. I don't really think this is that much of a reach in terms of value. I do think he was a top 10ish player in this class, but maybe not the pick that they absolutely need, an absolute home run. I don't think it's a bad pick, so it does fill a need for the Carolina Panthers. So B- for Ted McMillan. Problem is they've spent a lot of draft capital on receivers recently, and it has not worked out. Leggett has looked really awful, and they spent a lot of draft capital. I think 4 of the last 5 years they've taken a receiver in the first round, just has not worked out. You gave Robbie Anderson a lot of money, that didn't work. You brought in Deontay Johnson, you gave up a corner, Deontay Jackson who could have helped you, and you ended up trading him, halfway through the season last year. So just they've really mishandled the receiver position for a long time. I really reference Dave Tepper, but well, team, and so just recency bias suggests this will not work out. However, just looking at it objectively, I do not think it's a bad draft pick for the Carolina Panthers. 9th overall, New Orleans Saints. They take Kelvin Banks, tackle out of Texas. I didn't love this. It's going to get to C+ for me. I think Banks is a solid left tackle. The Saints need, you name it, they need it. They are a disaster. Their team is horrible. They're old. They have no cap space. Their starting quarterback right now might be Spencer Rattler because Derek Carr might not play with you because of a shoulder injury. They are a disaster. Their ownership is in hot water. Their front office is a joke. They have a new head coach. It's a disaster over there. Not a lot of good going on in New Orleans. I don't think the player is bad. He's a first-round talent. I think he's a little bit of a reach. I thought Banking was going to go in the later part of the first round. I did not have him going in my top 10. I think it's a little bit of a reach. However, they do need a left tackle. Ever since you lost Terrell Armstead, you thought Trevor Penning was going to be the guy you drafted in the first round. That completely backfired. And Kelvin Banks does still need. However, there's just still so many other needs on this roster. You need to take best player available. He just wasn't it. So this is just not exactly what they needed. However, I do think he'll be a pretty good left tackle, which is something that they need. So this gets a C+ for me. It's an okay pick. 10th overall, the Chicago Bears take Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan. This made no sense. First of all, if you want a tight end, he's not the best tight end available. The best tight end was Tyler Warren. Though I like Colston Loveland, I had him going in the first round. I think he's a first-round talent. A later first-round pick, but maybe not a top 10 pick. Also, you don't need a tight end. You have Cole Kmet there. You have plenty of weapons for Caleb Williams. The Bears did have a very good free agency, like they have the last 3 years, and it's led to no wins, but that's besides the point. They filled the needs really well. They addressed their needs on the offensive line. They addressed their needs on the defensive line. So, I would have went, if Ted McMillan was there, I would have said this would have been a good spot for him. Maybe if Genty was there, I wouldn't have loved that, but that would have probably made some more sense. Maybe if you really want to, maybe just keep adding to that defensive line, maybe another pass rusher. You can never have too much pass rush help. There was plenty of talent there at that spot. Maybe a linebacker like a Gion Campbell. Secondary would have made a lot of sense. They have some pieces there that I like, but to go tight end, not even the best one available, that did not make any sense to me. I don't get it. Let's get the C- for me. Don't hate the player, but just this didn't make a lot of sense for the Chicago Bears. Also, Cam didn't even really target Cole Kmet last year. That's because he's not very good. I've been very apparent about that, but I don't get this at all. San Francisco 49ers take Mike Williams, edge rusher out of Georgia. This was... I go back and forth with this one. I'm not that surprised he went where he did. I had him going like 15 or so. I thought he'd be between like 15 and 20. So he went a little higher than I thought, but not that much higher. I had him going, and I did have a feeling he was going to go in like that top like 10-ish, 8 to 12 range. However, I think he'd be closer to 15 to 18. Niners lost a lot of pieces in the offseason. There's a lot of places you could have went. This is a solid pick. I'm gonna give this pick a B. I think he's a good pass rusher. I think him and Nick Bosa are going to make a very good duo. There's still a lot of needs on this team. The offensive line is a big one. You still have some needs in the secondary. You lost a lot of pieces, like I mentioned, especially on the defensive side of the ball and in that secondary. Walker, his teammate, probably should have went before him. Williams is probably a more well-rounded player, but Walker's a much better, just pure pass rusher. But not a bad pick. Not great value, but also not horrible value. This was a decent pick, I would say, by the 49ers. They got themselves a good player, Michael Williams, to the 49ers. I give it the B. 12, Dallas Cowboys take Tyler Booker, offensive guard out of Alabama. I knew they were going to do it. Jerry Jones loves doing this. I do think he was probably the best pure guard in this class. However, this is simply a reach. I knew Dallas was going to do it. One, just Jerry Jones. I don't know how that guy operates. Does he just like spin a wheel every year? And like, oh, Tyler Booker, cool. I think that's how he. I think that's how he picks his players. I'm not gonna lie. However, Dallas has invested a lot of draft capital into the offensive line for a long time. They are very good at doing this. You got Travis Frederick years ago. Not very high. He turned into an All-Pro. Zach Martin's a guy who just retired. This is who Booker's replacing. He's the guy you got in the third round. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame probably. Tyler Cook's another guard that you took in the first round a couple of years ago. He's becoming an All-Pro. So they love interior offensive linemen in the first round, and they are very good at drafting them. I do think Booker will be a very good guard in this league. However, they Dallas is not in a good spot. Their running back room is a mess. They need another receiver next to Lamb. Defensively, outside of Micah Parsons, there isn't a whole lot there. The kid they extended, the D tackle over whatever his name is, he's very good. Other than that, there isn't a whole lot there. You lose Jordan Lewis in free agency. You lost Marcus Lawrence in free agency. So I'm not sure if this was the pick that I would have went, but I knew he was going to do it, and he's not a bad player by any means. I'll give this a B minus. Not a bad player, but just not what you exactly what you needed, and it's a reach for me. 13th overall, Miami Dolphins take defensive tackle Kenneth Grant at Michigan. I don't love this, to be honest. I did not love this. Miami, first of all, Chris Greer, I think uh, he's running out of time. He's single-handedly destroyed this franchise. First of all, he gave Tua, who's probably one man away from his career being over. On top of the fact, I don't think he's that good. His career being over to give that guy $1 zillion. Let's see, what else has he done? This Tyler Griffin situation's a mess. The Jalen Ramsey situation is a mess. He gave Jalen Waddle a bunch of money. Waddle didn't do a whole lot last year. Might have been because of the quarterback situation, but still. Troy Armstead just retired like a couple of weeks ago. So not only are you left tackle, and your quarterback is a smaller quarterback who's very injury prone. Like, what are we doing here? Okay, I don't understand what we're doing. Also, they invested a lot into that D line. Dylan Phillips, sophomore first rounder. You took Chuck Robinson in the first round last year. I don't think this was needed. You spent a bunch of money to keep Zach Seiler in talent at the D tackle spot. So, although I think they have a really talented defensive line, you have Josh Allen in your division, you have Drake May in your division. How Justin Fields has nothing else to start the game plan for. However, they just had so many other needs that they could have easily filled here. I mean, Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren was there. He's they don't haven't had a legit tight end in a while. That would have been a better pick. And look, I don't hate Kenneth Brown. I think he's a first round talent, but that's not a need for them, and didn't make a lot of sense. And also just not great value. I think he was a later first round pick, not really him like a top 25 to 30 guy, not a top 15 guy, top 13 guy. So I think this is a reach. This gets a C minus for me. Just not a great pick by the Miami Dolphins. 14th overall, Indianapolis Colts. They take Tyler Lawrence, tight end out of Penn State. I like this a lot. This gets an A minus. War, I think, is going to be a production really wasn't there in college. I think there is potential for him to be a really good pass rusher. Assuming Henderson stays in Cincinnati, from those two guys off the edge, I think could be a really dangerous pairing. However, he's still really raw. I don't know if he'll make an impact in year one, and I think that's what the Bengals need to do. You just extended Chase and Higgins. You have Joe Burrow, so your window is probably what, 4-ish years maybe to get a Super Bowl before the thing goes sideways. And Stewart's not going to be ready for like another year. I really wish they took a player that could have helped them right now. And there were a lot of players that would have filled need for them that would have done that for the Cincinnati Bengals. So, not the best pick, but I do have the talent on him. Something is there with the right coaching. He could turn into a really good player. I don't hate the situation for him. I think in the long run this could help. However, clock is ticking for the Bengals, and I'm not sure how much it helps them right now. 18th overall, the Seattle Seahawks take Ray Zabel, guard or really just offensive lineman out of North Dakota State. I think it's a really good pick for Seattle. Maybe a slight reach. I would have went with Josh Simmons here, the tackle out of Ohio State, but Zabel was the second best guard in this class. He's really versatile. He played a good amount of tackle in college. He even plays center. I think he will be a guard. He kind of reminds me of like an Elton Jenkins, a guy who's an excellent guard. He can also play tackle and center quite well. Very good offensive lineman. I think he will be a guard. So it's need for Seattle. But there's need to address the offensive line. The one thing they didn't do in free agency, and they do. I think it's a very good pick. Just a B for me again. I thought there was a better lineman out there on the board. However, Zabel's probably a safer pick, even the value isn't quite there. Overall, a good pick by the Seattle Seahawks. 19th overall, Tampa Bay Buccaneers take Emeka Egbuka, receiver out of Ohio State. For me, this gets a B minus. It's just an okay pick. I like the talent of Egbuka. I think he's a very good receiver. At the very least, can be a very reliable second receiver. Could be a borderline first receiver. But this was not a need for them. However, Mike Evans is getting older. You got Chris Godwin coming off an injury. I see why they made the pick. They had a lot of needs elsewhere on the offensive line as well as on the defensive side of the ball. Tampa's a team that's on the older side of things. You're in a division that's not good, so you're gonna kind of cruise. Even if you're only winning 9 or 10 games, you're gonna win it pretty much every year until one of these teams in that division figures something out. So I really wish you took a player. Egbuka will help them now, but it's more so going to help them in the future when Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are no longer there. But I really wish they took a piece to help them now on the line or on defense. However, I got why they made the pick. However, I think this is a team that needs to really cash in on the window now. They could have done a better job doing that, but not a bad pick, but I would have done something different. 20th overall, Denver Broncos take corner Jahdae Barron out of Texas. This also gets a B minus for me. I like Barron. I think he's a very good corner. I think he'll be an excellent slot corner. You have Surtain already there, though, and he is an incredible player, arguably the best corner in the entire league. You have Rodney Moss there as well, who had a great season last year. It just wasn't a need for you. He could. I think Barron will be an excellent slot guy. Could end up being the best slot guy in football in a few years. But I'm not sure if he's a legit outside corner. He's versatile because he can also play safety as well as being a lockdown slot guy, but I don't know how good he's going to perform on the outside. It wasn't a need for them, however, not a bad pick. This is very good value for Jahdae Barron. I'm surprised he was still there at 20. I thought he'd be a top 15 guy. He ended up going at 20. So, very good value. It makes an already low defense already better, but I really wish they address the opposite side of the ball. You have Sean Payton as your head coach. You just drafted Bo Nix last year. He's played well as a rookie. I thought it was a really good opportunity to get him a legit skill piece. They were all over the board, and they didn't do that. So I think a bit of a missed opportunity by the Broncos, but it is good value, and he is a good player. 21st overall, Pittsburgh Steelers take Derek Harmon, defensive tackle. When this first happened, I didn't love it by any means. I've warmed up a little bit, but it still gets a B minus for me. I am glad they didn't take Shedeur Sanders. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think Shedeur was very good. If you've watched the show, you know I'm very low on him. However, Your QB1 right now is Mason Rudolph. God knows what's gonna happen with the Aaron Rodgers situation. I don't honestly. They should probably just move on from that because I don't see that ending any better than it did with the New York Jets. And Jackson Dart is sitting right there. You need to move up for him. There's a good chance he's not gonna be there in the second round, especially where you're picking him in the second round, and you just pass up on him. That didn't make any sense to me. Their D1 is getting older. Watt's not getting any younger. He's got a contract coming up. Cameron Hayward's at the end of his career. It's Hayward's heir apparent. Watt getting up there in age. I think his contract is coming up, like I said. So not a bad pick. I don't hate the talent in I think he's a very good defensive tackle out of Oregon. He was my fourth best D tackle in this class behind Graham, Nolan, and Kenneth Grant. So a slight reach. I had him very late first round, early second rounder. So I think this is a slight reach. I really wish they took a quarterback in Jackson Dart. And then you throw Mason Rudolph out there for 5 or 6 weeks, and then let ease Dart in there. You got two great receivers over there in George Pickens and DK Metcalf. If you go 6-11, fine. Go out and get a top pick next year. If it costs Mike Tomlin his job, that might honestly help them in the long run. To be honest, that's kind of a hot take that I have. But so I got what I made the pick. I don't hate the player, but I really thought Jackson Dart was the pick. It made too much sense, and I think it's a missed opportunity by the Pittsburgh Steelers. 22nd overall, Los Angeles Chargers take Omarion Hampton, running back out of North Carolina. This gets a B- for me as well. I like Hampton. I think he was the clear-cut number 2 back in this class. He's very good. He's a big, strong back. He's hard to tackle. He's very good. He can catch the ball a bit. The Chargers already brought in Najee Harris. I do think Hampton has a much higher ceiling than Najee Harris. I mean, Harris is what? 26, 27? So realistically, he's going to give you 2 or 3 years or so. He's a solid back, but he's not an elite back. Hampton definitely has a higher upside. However, the money you're paying G. Harris, it probably doesn't make a lot of sense to him to be the number 2 back. Maybe Hampton's going to be the number 2 back. You really needed a receiver here. If Colson Loveland was here, like I thought he was going to be, that would have been the pick for me. But I think this is a missed opportunity to maybe get yourself like a Matthew Golden. That's where I would have went. However, you get yourself a playmaker with Jim Harbaugh as your head coach and Greg Roman as your offensive coordinator. You're going to lean on the run game and an elite defense. You have an elite defense. Now you have a really good running game with Hampton and Najee Harris. It does make some sense. I would have went receiver here. There was a receiver or two there you could have taken. But overall, this is a good pick. Not a great pick, but a good pick by the Los Angeles Chargers. 23rd overall, Green Bay Packers take Matthew Golden, receiver out of Texas. Of course, you had the CEO, Mark Murphy, announce the pick. This is the first skill player the Packers have taken in the first round since 2002, the year I was born, and I'm 23 years old. So, I think this is a really good pick by the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, it was in Green Bay, so the crowd got really hype. This gets an A- for me. This is a really good pick. Golden, I don't know what his ceiling is. It might only be Marquise Brown, but he's definitely a legit deep threat in this league. It's a really good fit in Green Bay because now you have a Jaden Reed, Romeo Dubes, and Matthew Golden for Jordan Love, and you have Tucker Kraft, Josh Harris running the ball. That offense is really, really deep and really, really good. Christian Watson, who isn't great, well, he's hurt, but now he can at least sell into a receiver 4 role. Maybe you trade him for a draft pick next year, or maybe in this draft in the next day or so, or maybe you trade him for a depth piece defensive that can help you right now. You never know. But overall, I think it's a good pick for the Green Bay Packers. It makes a lot of sense. Overall, I think it's a good pick. 24th overall, Donovan Jackson, offensive guard out of Ohio State. This gets a B- for me. It's probably the one spot on the O-line you still need some help because you added Ryan Kelly and Will Freeze in free agency. So I got why you did it. Overall, I think he's a solid guard. Probably the third-ish best guard. probably the third best guard in this club behind Tyler Bucker and Gray Zabel. Unless you're saying Wyatt Millen's a guard, I do believe he's a tackle though. So it makes sense. I thought he was. I did not think he was a first round talent. I thought he was. I thought he was a pretty strictly an early second rounder. So a slight reach, however, it does fill a need. And I do think he is solid. So I'll give it a B minus for the Minnesota Vikings. They have a really good roster. They did a great job in free agency, addressing the offensive line, addressing the defensive line. Obviously, I think not paying Darnold, I do think will be the right move in the long run. You spent the pick on McCarthy last year for a reason, the 10th pick in the draft. I like that he's getting a legit shot. I like what they're doing overall. And McCarthy, to me, needs some really good weapons and a good offensive line, and now he has that. So, although I think the slight reach, this overall fills in the eye, I do think Jackson's a solid player. 25th overall, we have a trade. The Giants move back into the first round. So Texans trade out of the first round. They give up I believe they give up their second rounder, I think a fourth rounder, maybe a third rounder, and a third rounder next year. And they get Jackson Dart, quarterback, out of Ole Miss. Overall, I like this move for the Giants. This gets a B plus for me. It didn't cost you a whole lot. A second this year and a third next year for a potential, I don't know about franchise quarterback, but best quarterback you've had since the peak of Eli Manning, which at this point, we're going on 10 years since we had that. I think it's a good move. And it didn't cost you a whole lot. A lot of times this cost you a future first. It did not. So I'm happy. I'm happy about that. I think Darnold's the best quarterback in this class. I think he's a much better fit for the Giants than Shedeur Sanders. He's a guy that Daboll was higher on. I think he fits Daboll's offense very well. Like I said, a lot better than Shedeur. I don't know if he's elite, but I think he's got a very solid arm. He's accurate with the ball. Decent athlete. I think he'll be a very solid quarterback in this league. However, the Giants is not a great situation for him. Malik Neighbors is really the only weapon that you have. That line is very concerning. Assuming he's not going to start right away, I don't know how much longer Brian Daboll's even going to be there. He could get fired this year, even during the season. You never know. I'm not sold that that's not going to happen. That's the only reason I don't love it. Also, it's a very crowded room. Yes, you have vets in the room, so he won't start right away, which is what needs to happen. However, you have Russell Wilson there, who obviously is a guy who's been in the league for a long time, a former Super Bowl champion. You have Jameis Winston in the room. He's a solid backup. Obviously, him from New York media is going to be hilarious. Good guy to have in the room. Tommy Vito is also in the room. But that's a guy you never know that they could let him go or just throw him on the practice squad because he's not obviously anything special. But it's going to be hard for him to get ripped. I feel like in a room that's that busy. So, but if the Giants need to do a really good job putting a legit plan in place for him, if they do, I think there's a chance he becomes a very solid quarterback. However, with the combination of lack of available reps in the room, and although they have the opportunity to start Russell Wilson for the full season and not legitimately play him until you're 3-10, you give him a couple of games because Russell Wilson's at the end of his career and not going to be on the team next year. You might as well just give Dart I guess like a little showcase. Yeah, we can do that. However, Russell Wilson is old, not near the same anymore, kind of washed. Jameis Winston, great guy, is not very good at football. So there's a chance he might unnecessarily be kind of thrown out there like week 6 or 7 for no reason. So I just don't trust the Giants to do the right thing here. If they do, I think it's going to be a great pick. And overall, I like the talent. I think he's a late first round or early second round, so the value's not bad. But just the plan in place for him, I don't love. So I like this a lot for the Giants. I don't know if I love this for Jackson Dart. If I liked it a little more for Jackson Dart, I probably got an A. Because I don't love this for the player himself. I'll give it a B plus. 26 overall. The Atlanta Falcons move back in. So they get 26 from the Rams. Also get pick 101 the 4th round. They send the Rams. Pick 46 in round 2. Pick 242. I think that's in the 6th round. And they get them their first next year. And they take James Pierce, edge rusher, out of Tennessee. So this gets a B minus for me. I do like the talent of James Pierce. He's a really good athlete. I think could be a legit speed rusher in this league. Reminds me a lot of Will McDonald, who turned out very well for the New York Jets. I don't mind them double dipping on pass rushers. It's such a huge need for them. You have a very talented offense if Michael Penix works out. You have a defensive minded head coach, Raheem Morris, who I don't think is good as a head coach, but nonetheless, that's the guy you have right now. Uh, James Pierce, I think on the field, it kind of speaks for itself. Great athlete. He produced in college. I think he's going to be very good. However, the off field stuff is what's kind of keeping me from loving this, and why it gets a B and not an A. There's been concerns that he's very uncoachable, and which obviously is a concern. If they just like had the 26th pick and they just stuck there and got him, I actually would like this a lot. You know, you can work on the character stuff with him. You get a really good player, probably a lot lower than he probably should have gone. Great pick, but you gave up you gave your first next year for a team that doesn't have a very high ceiling for James Pierce Jr. That I didn't love. I didn't think it was worth giving up your first round next year for back in for this kid. I think that's too much to give up. And however, I like this for the Rams a lot. Now you have 2 first rounders next year. The Falcons pick could be a top 10 pick. And for a team that's aging, now they can possibly get the net keep on moving in the next great Rams team possibly. So for the Rams, but for the Falcons, I think they get a pretty good player who couldn't end up being really good. Him and Walker could be a really good duo. 2 very good young pass rushers. However, I think they gave up too much to move up to take James Pierce. 27th overall, Baltimore Ravens take Malachi Starks, safety out of Georgia. I like this pick. This gets a B for me. I think Starks is a really good player. I think he'll be a great safety in the NFL. I think this is very good value. I think he's a top 20 player in this class. I think it's a really good value. There's wasn't really a need for them. You have Kyle Hamilton already, who is one of the league's best. You have Marcus Williams there. I think they need to go defense, but I really wish they went pass rush. There were some guys there for them. So not the exact pick I would have made. However, he is a very good player, and who will help them. Just John Horn's also a defensive guy that they didn't need help on defense. It's great value. Ravens are very good at developing talent and drafting. Well, some of the best in the entire league. Overall, it's a good pick for the Baltimore Ravens. 28th overall, Lions take Tyleik Williams, D tackle, out of Ohio State. I don't love this. To me, this gets a C. They needed help on defense, especially on the defensive line. Aiden Hudson's coming off a major injury. Alan McNeil is coming off a torn ACL very late in the year. I don't know when they'll get him, if they get him at all. They needed help up front on defense, especially how many injuries you had last year. And your corner, Aaron Glenn, is no longer there. Your D-line coach became the new DC of the Patriots. So you lose a lot on defense. However, this is simply a reach. I think he was a late second rounder, early third rounder that you took in the first round. You simply reach. I think Tyleik Williams will be a solid defensive tackle. Do hate the player, but this is simply a reach. The right position to target, but they just reached on. They reached on the player. It's simple as that. Reach on the player. There was just better guys on the board for the Detroit Lions. This is not the best pick they could have made, and I'll give it a C. 29th overall, Washington Commanders take tackle Josh Connolly Jr. out of Oregon. It's a solid pick. I would have went Josh Simmons. I thought he was I had him one spot ahead of Connolly in my offensive tackle rankings. However, you do get a tackle that I think you need. You got to improve that line for Jaden Daniels. He's got a very small frame. He runs a lot. He's your franchise guy. He's got a chance to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He already is, to be honest. Got to protect him. So this gets a B+ for me. I would have went with Simmons. But though there's probably a safer pick, I think Connolly will be a very solid tackle in this league. Simmons coming off an injury. I got why he did it. Overall, a good pick for the Washington Commanders. Josh Connolly Jr. out of Oregon. Tackle to the Washington Commanders. 35-year-old, the Buffalo Bills take corner Maxwell Harrison out of Kentucky. I like this a lot. I had Will Johnson well ahead of him in my rankings, in my corner rankings. I'm surprised he's still on the board. However, the reason he fell was because of apparent knee injury that team's flag that they didn't like. I thought Johnson was, if Hunter is not going to play a lot of corner, I thought I would have Johnson as the number 1 corner in this class. Harrison, though, was my third best corner in this class. I think he's a very good corner. This fills a major need for the Buffalo Bills. They really need another cover guy. Christian Benford's very good. You saw how much he was missing when he got hurt in the AFC Championship. However, Rasul Douglas wasn't great last year. He's no longer with the team. They needed one more really solid cover guy, and they got it in Harrison. Again, I would have went with Will Johnson, but I get why they didn't. It's a safer pick. I think he will be very good at the next level. This is a very good pick by the Buffalo Bills. 31st overall. The Eagles move up one spot with the Chiefs. They give a 5th round pick and take linebacker Jihad Campbell out of Alabama. I like this a lot. For the Eagles, this gets an A- for me. First of all, this is incredible value. I had Campbell as like a top 15 to 20 player, and he goes at 31. This is great value from the Philadelphia Eagles. I think their front seven is still really freaking good and one of the deeper ones in football. However, you did lose some pieces. Milton Williams and Just are two huge pieces to lose. But they do have a lot of depth there. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Bryce Huff. You've put a lot of money and draft capital into that front seven. You just re-signed Zach Bowman, which is a huge piece to get back. And the Kobe Dean's going to be helping this year. So I think you have plenty of depth there. However, I know Campbell's production wasn't always there at Alabama. However, I think this guy's the full package. He's very good against the run. He's solid in coverage. He can rush the passer. I mean, he's the full package at the linebacker spot. Now playing with the Eagles with all that talent around him, Vic Fangio as his defensive coordinator, I think he will thrive in Philadelphia. High resume, I think it's done it again. Only cost him a 5th round pick to move up the one spot and get himself another playmaker on the defensive side of the ball for the Philadelphia Eagles. And 32, Chiefs get offensive tackle Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. I do like this a lot from the Kansas City Chiefs. This gets a B+ for me. Only worry I had is that he is coming off a major injury, and if that lingers, it will be a problem. However, he was my number, probably like coin flip for 3rd and 4th tackle in this class with Kelvin Banks behind Campbell and Membu. If healthy, I think he will be a really good left tackle in this league. Left tackle was a major need for the Kansas City Chiefs. You gotta protect Patrick Mahomes, obviously. I'm sure the Chiefs will find a way to have a deep playoff run pretty much every year, as long as Mahomes is there. However, this does feel a major need for them. I mean, you saw how the pocket kept collapsing against him in the Super Bowl. 2 Super Bowls that Mahomes has lost because the line just was not able to protect him. As a result, he made some boneheaded mistakes. Happened against Tampa in 2020, and it happened again this past year against the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl. So this is a very good pick by the Kansas City Chiefs. You move back one spot, pick up an extra pick, and you still get a guy in Simmons, who I thought was a top 20, 25 guy in this class. Get him 32. It's great value. It fills a major need. If he's healthy, he will be really good. That is the NFL Draft first round. Enjoy the rest of the draft. Until next time, so long, and have a great day.